All right, this is it. Moment of truth. On this week's episode of Cody Builds, we're tying up all the loose ends on Elsworth so we can attempt to run this truck for the very first time. And with any luck, we'll be successful and we will hear this 390 roar to life in this episode. So stick around, you're not gonna wanna miss it. All right, guys, like I said, we are tying up all the loose ends. And one of the big loose ends we had was fittings for this tank. Now I have finally got the appropriate feed and return line fittings, and I've got those lines hooked up. Now the other thing I did off camera here is I went ahead and I ran our wiring harness all the way to back to the tank here. And I used the split loom that I've used up in the front, and I picked up a 3-prong weatherproof plug from O'Reilly's. Now what I did was I combined the ground for the sending unit and the fuel pump into one prong here. And so we have a shared ground in that connection, and then a power wire, the signal wire from the sending unit and the power wire for the pump are in those plugs. And I left myself enough wire that we can basically drop this tank all the way to the ground, disconnect the wire, disconnect the hoses here, and be able to remove the tank without too much fuss. So I wanted to make sure that we had enough line in there, basically had a service loop in the line to where we could drop the wiring and the fuel lines down to the ground here. So that's what we have. I've got everything hooked back up. I've got my filler neck hoses hooked up here. What we're gonna do here next is we're actually going to jack this thing up into place. I'm gonna feed the filler neck up through the notch in the frame that we put in a while back, and we're going to put fuel in this tank and power up the fuel system here and see if we get fuel pressure all the way to the front and make sure we don't have any leaks. Gonna bring you guys around onto this side, and you can see up here I've got my filler neck hoses pulled through. Now obviously these aren't pulled all the way through. Basically this is hose is gonna rest on this little bracket up at the top there once this is fully installed. So we still got a ways up and over to come, but you can see this hose comes with a little like protective wrap that goes around this filler neck. You can see it fits in there nicely. Everything it's tight, but it does fit in there nicely, and so that's going to protect this hose from getting squished, even though it really can't. But it's just going to keep that whole hose kind of flexed so it's not rubbing anywhere on the frame or up on the bed here. But that all fits nicely where we notch the frame out and everything. That all seems like it's going to work well. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my metal filler neck, run it down through here so I can at least try to start to get a little bit of fuel put in this. I'm only going to put about 2 gallons in because I don't want to add a ton of weight. And if something should go wrong, I don't want to have a full 5 gallons sitting in the tank here, making it more difficult to move this thing around that I'm going to have to like drain out or something. So I'm going to go grab the filler neck and get it hooked up here to our rubber line. All right, now this metal filler neck was really rusty and crusty and really just disgusting all around. So I put this in my parts washer. I left it in there for a couple days. I got all the rust out of the inside of this thing. I scoured it really good with a Scotch-Brite pad, and we cleaned this thing up. I actually was having some trouble finding one of these new. I'm sure they're out there, but I was having trouble finding these new. So I was able to actually restore this one. I just threw paint on the outside of it here because it was pretty rusty and junky looking. So I just cleaned up the outside, sprayed it with some satin black paint. It's still probably a little wet, actually a little tacky, but ultimately it doesn't matter. It's going to be up underneath the truck. We can always touch it up later. I'm going to go ahead, throw this in, get my hoses hooked up, and see if we can't get a little fuel down the neck of this thing. I actually thought I had the camera on and I didn't, and I really had to fight this thing. So I'm not taking it apart to redo it, just to show you guys. But you can see my hoses now run through the frame here. You see I've got my little hose guard in place there. That's just going to protect our filler neck hose. Right now I've got our metal filler neck with the rubber hoses attached to it. I do not have these tightened down just yet because I still need to get the fuel box installed on the side of the fender there. So we will do that eventually, but I had to fight this thing. I forgot to install the hose clamp on our main filler neck on the tank, and I had this all installed once, and I went to tighten it up and the hose was walking off and I couldn't get it back on. without just taking everything apart, dropping the tank and putting it all back together. So you can see we still got the tank hanging down here. I'm gonna be able to put eyeballs on our fittings up there once we get some fuel in the tank and just ensure that we don't have any leaks at the tank side. If we do, we'll obviously have to take all this apart again and address our tank leaks before we go any further here. So it's time to put about 2 gallons of fuel in the tank, prime the fuel pump up, check to make sure we've got pressure, and then inspect all of our fittings to make sure we don't have any fuel leaks. Oh, this is exciting stuff, guys. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years and we are finally putting our first fuel in the tank. This is a pretty big moment here. See how much of this I can spill. A lot would be the answer. Pour faster. Spilling gas everywhere. Of course, these new tanks don't have a vent on the backside of them, so they never want to pour smooth. One of the things, I don't talk about politics or any of that stuff much, but one of the things our government's so thoroughly screwed up, gas tanks. I think they're more dangerous now than they ever were before. I end up spilling more gas every time I try to pour gas into my lawnmower or anything. It's ridiculous. Okay, got some good premium fuel going in. Premium, shout out Grindhard Plumbing. All right, so I've got the fuel in the tank. I was just about ready to prime this thing, and I just remembered I've not set up a chassis ground yet. And I was struggling the other night because I had the fuel pump wired up, and I wanted to hear it at least kick on when you turn the key on. It's supposed to run for 5 seconds after ignition, and it was not doing that. And it dawned on me, oh, I don't have the chassis ground out yet. So I just quick threw a wire under there to just connect the two, see if the chassis ground worked, and the fuel pump kicked on. So I know I had that grounding issue. Now I want to permanently fix that. Up on the back side of the block, the wire that we have grounding the block runs directly to the battery. So we're going to kick a wire off of the block and down to the chassis at that point. And then eventually we'll also run one from that location to the cab as well, so that the cab, the chassis, and the engine block are all grounded. I got my chassis ground put in right off of my block ground there. It runs right down to the frame. So we should be all grounded out, the chassis and the block. The cab ground seems to be okay for now, but we are going to put a better cab ground in eventually here, probably when I do the rest of this wiring up. So let's get back in the cab here. And I'm gonna grab my key, and we're gonna keep an eye on our terminator. We're gonna listen. You guys keep an ear out, see if we can hear the fuel pump kick on and prime up, hopefully. Okay, I heard the pump kick on. So we're gonna come around to the front side here and see if we got fuel pressure. No fuel pressure yet. So we might not have enough fuel in the system, for one. All right, one thing I wasn't thinking about, the tank was really leaned back. So I'm wondering if I didn't have the fuel running to the front of the tank. Right now I've got it tilted back forward. So, and I did add a couple more gallons, so it should have fuel down into the front of the tank now. So what I really want to hear is the fuel pump change tones as it picks up fuel. That's what we're shooting for here. So key off. There we go. Could actually hear it pick up fuel that time. Sounds like we got good flow now. Come around on this side. Okay, we got fuel pressure, good deal. I see a leak from our top fitting here. See if I can't tighten this up. Oh yeah, we can definitely tighten it up. Okay, didn't take much to stop dripping there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and prime the system again. Now I'm seeing dripping on the delivery side. So we're just gonna be chasing leaks here. All right, I'm gonna have you guys keep an eye on the pressure regulator there so you can see what kind of pressure our pump's putting out. And I'm just gonna prime this up a couple times. There's once. There's twice. There's 3 times. So it looked to me like about 45 PSI. Hope that's what you guys were seeing too. Didn't see any leaks. Yeah, we're dry now. Feels dry. All right, so we think we got our top end leaks all taken care of. I'm gonna go down on the bottom side, check the fuel filter, which I don't see any drops of fuel under the truck. And then we're gonna check the tank side and make sure the tank supply and return lines aren't leaking. And if those aren't leaking, then we're gonna go ahead and reinstall the tank and get it bolted up one last time in its final resting place. All right, gonna be kind of hard for you guys to see, but I just did a quick visual inspection. Got my hands all the way up there, didn't feel anything wet on the return and the supply line. So we are set to try and jam this thing up into position. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna use the jack here. We're gonna get the tank up into position, get it bolted in for good, and then we should be set on the fuel system. It's got fuel in it, it's primed up, we got no leaks, and we are ready on the fuel side of things to fire this puppy up. All right, back out in the shop this morning. Where we left off last night, we got the fuel system all set up, primed, got the fuel tank put back in, had a few issues there, but we got those taken care of. So we're just checking things off the list today to get us to the goal of running this truck. So one of the first things that I'm gonna work on here, I need to get the throttle pedal put in, and to do that, I need to clean it up and get it painted. So while I'm doing that, I've got a number of parts over here. You can see this is the throttle pedal, but I've got a number of parts here, radiator support pieces, the hood latch, the hinges, a number of things that while I've got this out and I've got the grinder out and I'm cleaning things up, I'm gonna go ahead and clean and prime and paint all of those as well. Just be easier to do it now and not have to do it again down the line. So first thing this morning, we're gonna start prepping all these, rough them up with some Scotch-Brite, get them painted all black, looking nice. It's gonna make a world of difference having these little details done on the inside of the truck. Just everything that gets finished is one thing that doesn't look out of place with everything else finished. So with that said, I'm gonna get to work here and get these things painted up. Now we're gonna do something I probably should have done before I put the headers on. And we're gonna drill out a hole for the O2 sensor, which I've already got laid down there, at least the harness for it. So we're gonna pull that back. And I'm gonna drill this hole about 4 inches back from where the collector starts. That shouldn't be too bad, as long as I can get this started. Ah, easy peasy. Good. And we took the metal with us. Nice. Okay, got the O2 sensor and the weld-in bung here. So this is just a threaded bung. With the step here is 7/8. So I drilled a 7/8 hole. So it should set down right onto the top of the pipe there. And we're gonna weld this all the way around. All right, guys, it's still the same night here, but I ran home, grabbed some dinner, and took a shower and changed clothes. Honestly, I've been sweating out in the garage all day. We had some nice weather here. It's back to being extremely hot and humid again. So we're inching closer here. I want to talk a little bit about the O2 sensor that I put in. This is my first complaint, I will say, about the Terminator system. Everything's been really good so far, but I'm really annoyed about this. The O2 sensor that they use and the connector that is on their harness are two different fittings, so they require this pigtail. I don't understand that. in the slightest bit like they know what O2 sensor they're sending. Maybe at some point they designed it around a different O2 sensor and then upgraded. Well, at that point you should be wiring your harnesses different, because now I was already going to have a bunch of extra wire, but now I've got a ridiculous amount of wire here, and I'm going to have to re-push a lot of this stuff back through the loom. So that's really annoying to me. I mean, look, I got enough wire. I could put this ECU in the bed probably and still have enough wire for this O2 sensor. So for now, we're just going to jam that through our steering column hole, keep it out of the way, because we're not going to have the steering column in when we run this thing tomorrow. Yeah, so we're inching closer here. I've got to now get the fans wired up next, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to start a little bit further back here. We're going to start down in the firewall down here, sorry, in the cowl panel here, and we're going to loom this whole harness. I've got the rear one loomed and wired up here. We're going to do something very similar with the main harness. So we're going to take that all the way up and through, and we're going to attach it up under the fender here. So we're going to kind of hide all of this wiring, tuck it all up inside the fender here. So that's what I'm going to work on tonight. We're going to get that all wired up through to this area here. We're going to figure out how we're going to route our wires across over to the other headlight area over there. And then we are going to get our fans hooked up to the two relays that are across the cab on the other side there. So I've got power wire run already. We've got our power wires here. We just need to run grounds for those, and we'll run those right back to the firewall somewhere here, and then we'll end up grounding the front clip to the chassis. I still need to ground the cab to the chassis and the bed to the chassis. So we're going to try and accomplish all of that this evening. I think that's darn near it, guys. I got to get a throttle cable hooked up. One of the things I painted was a new throttle linkage. So if that's dry by this evening, we can maybe start installing the pedal and the throttle linkage. But if not, we'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow is the big day. We are going to break this engine in tomorrow, barring any major issues that we have on the first fire up. Well, assuming it fires up. I'm actually a little bit nervous about this. I don't anticipate anything going wrong, but you never really do, right? And anything can happen on these types of builds. I know that I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's as best as I can. I'm just hoping there's not something that I missed. All that said, I'm gonna get back to wiring now. All right, guys, so I'm using these like rubber lined P clamps. I just picked some up off of Amazon. These are stainless, little piece of rubber in there, and I'm going with a size that's tight enough to like clamp this in place. So this isn't gonna be loose in there. You can see I've got the loom on there. And what I'm gonna do here, I started with a hole that was already existing in the inner fender. I just had to open it up, and I'm gonna actually use these little button head screws, black button head screws. So they're not going to be very intrusive to the inner fender area. You're not hardly even going to notice them unless you're looking for them. So that'll be just like kind of a nice little clean look on the inside. And we're going to run the button head facing in from the inner fender so that the nice side is on the inner fender side. Everything's so small. That's what she said. So we're gonna hang this up top. I'm gonna need to put a finger on that to hold that in place. Okay, and I'm just gonna start the nut for now. You'll notice earlier when I showed the rear light harness, I didn't have any of those tightened down yet either. It's just because I still have some wires to run, but I wanted to get these clamps put in place. So I'm gonna continue on. I'm gonna do the same thing a little further up here. I'm probably gonna use 2 more. So one about in this area here to hold it in the middle, and then one on the end right before we cross through the grommet to go into the bottom side of, or into the core support area. So you can see this is actually not bad at all. I like the way it looks. I like that we don't have any wires showing on the inside of the engine bay at this point, and the only wiring that's going to be showing on the inside of the engine bay will be along the front of the core support. So if you're looking at it from Straight on, you're never even going to see that wire loom. But if you're looking at it from anywhere else, from the side, you'll see it. But it'll be the same black loom, so you're not hardly going to notice it at all. It's be a nice clean look. So I'm going to go ahead now and drill out a couple more holes, put our P-clamps in, and move on to wiring up the fans. Now looking at it from this side, we've got our three tiny button head screws in here, and you're not even hardly going to notice those. I think that turned out really nice. This is all really clean up in here, really nicely wired, so I'm very happy with that. Now we're going to come around to this side, and I'm going to start splitting up like my headlight wires, my marker lights, all that kind of stuff. We're going to start getting all that stuff split up. And then we'll get our fans wired up here. We're going to put these on a plug so that I have the ability to unplug them and remove them. And then we'll get all the wiring cleaned up, and we'll get it all loomed, and we'll get a loom run across all the way over to our passenger side headlights. All right, real quick, I'm going to extend my passenger side light harness because it's not going to reach. So I need to extend my high beams, low beams, and my turn signal light here. And what I've done is I've already pulled out a length of wire here. I'm just going to color match these as best I can. These have black stripes in them, but you'll get the idea here. Red to red, green to green, and then I pulled a blue one for this white and blue line here. This is my parking light off to the side here. It's going to be long enough to reach. So I just want to run you through a couple of the tools that I've been using during the wiring here because we haven't really talked about it much. First thing is a good pair of wire strippers. I like these Klein wire strippers. These are really for household electrical work. So you can twist your copper together. It's got these nice flat bill nose on them, but they're actually really good strippers as well. So I've been using them for this. They work pretty well, but get yourself a good set of strippers. You won't regret it. Just going to strip the copper back on, or the insulation back on these three wires. And I've been using these crimp fittings with the heat shrink built into them. I'm also using shrink tube as well. It's overkill. You don't really need to do that with these, but I like to have it on there because it adds a little bit of a buffer. Like if for some reason a wire was being pulled and it got caught on the end of something, this terminal can get caught on the end of something. This heat shrink will conform nicely to the wire and to this, and gives it a little bit of like a ramp if for some reason a wire were pulled and got hooked on something. Now the odds of that happening aren't very likely, but it is just an extra little safeguard that I like to put in place. Now the other thing that I invested in and I would highly recommend is one of these crimpers. Just like the HKS crimpers we had for the spark plug wires, these work very similar. They're ratcheting crimpers, okay? And you can see the yellow, blue, and red for our different types of crimp terminals. These are great. You're going to get a good crimp every single time. No worries whatsoever. So we find our blue crimp section there. It's as simple as that. Boom, crimp done. Got a nice, good, strong crimp on there. And then, once that's done, my newest tool here, I picked this Hercules heat gun up, battery powered. 35 bucks, it's awesome. So it takes a minute for it to get warmed up, but it works really well. All right, you can see this shrinks down to the tube really nicely. Provides you that extra protection to keep your crimp from pulling apart, but I like to just go one step beyond and actually include a little bit of shrink tube over the top of it, like I said. You can see once this thing's hot, it's not bad at all. It's the first time you use it. So if you have long periods between using it, it'll be take a little while. But kind of what I was talking about here is you can see now we've got a little bit of a better transition between our crimp fitting and our shrink tube and wire there. So just extra protection, really probably not needed, but better safe than sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these other two wires crimped together, and then we're gonna route these wires. Now I'm really struggling with the wire loom, the smaller loom, so I'm gonna show you guys a little trick that I picked up somewhere along the way. So I'm just feeding all of my wires through the box end of a box wrench here. We're gonna pull this all the way through. Oh, hopefully my zip ties fit through there. Okay, now we are going to take our wrench, get it inside the loom here, get the two open ends of the loom around the box wrench like that, and we're just going to work the wire down. Oops. Like this. So we're keeping the wire inside the loom as we move here. This loom is a little extra difficult because it's so small, but this is helping. So I kind of keep one finger on the back side of the wrench here as we slide this. Just keep it between the loom. And then you just got to work it together as you're going here. And you can see how quickly, once we get going here, how quick that is. They make tools that are similar, that do something very similar to this, but a box end of a wrench will work. I've got my 4-way plug here wired up. So this is going to help if I ever need to remove the radiator or the fans. Undo this plug, pull out this hanger here, because I am going to put a little wire hanger here to keep those wires tight. And undo the grounds here. Actually, the grounds wouldn't even need to be undone, just this hanger. And then you can take the radiator out, no issues. So that'll be nice if we ever have to take the radiator out. I hope that that's few and far between. This branch here is my passenger side headlights and marker lights. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to get those across the way over to there. And I think what I've decided is, say I've got this all loomed up, I'm going to drill a hole in the back side of the cross member here. After the hole's drilled, I'll put this little grommet in right there. And then we will pass this wire through this grommet on the inside of the core support, and then all the way down here, right above the exit for the headlights here, I'm going to drill a hole in the back side of this, put the same size grommet in, run our wire out and down through there. That is the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and mark up where I want to drill for my grommets. We'll get those drilled out, and we'll get that wire run all the way through, and then we're essentially done running wire in the front of this truck. We'll just have to hook up the headlights, the marker lights, and all that stuff, but everything else, the wire's all run and it's where it needs to be, which is huge. That's a huge accomplishment here. This stuff is so time consuming. Just in wiring this fan up, I've been out here for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, just running the loom and trying to figure out exactly what the routing path is going to be and how I'm going to hook everything up. So yeah, it's time consuming. I'm ready to be done with this, but once I do get the fan grounded down, we're going to test them, make sure they work. And then guys, I think the only thing that we have left to do is to figure out our 12-volt keyed ignition, which we can wire around even technically tomorrow, and then just put in water in the radiator, so coolant in the radiator. So we are close. We're very, very close here. I'm getting very excited. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. So I got my fan all wired up and I'm trying to test the outputs. And so what I did on the Holley system is I lowered the temperature below ambient so that the fans would kick on, but I'm not getting any fans. So I want to tell you guys what I discovered here. On this relay box, I've got 3 relays in here. And the issue I'm having is the fuel pump relay is switched power, and the fans I've discovered are supposed to be switched ground. So what's happening right now is the way this is wired on our relay, number 86 is set up as ground on here, and that works for us for our fuel pump because we have a switched power wire for that. But the issue is when we are trying to switch on the fans, we're just switching ground to ground. We're not putting any power through the relay. The normal setup of this box, this is my ground wire. When I touch that to ground, I've got the Holley system on, the fan should be running. I'm not getting anything, okay? Now I'm gonna steal a 12-volt power source from over here. Grab my coil, I'm gonna pull these, touch these together. Hear the relay kick on. Hear that? You can hear the fan running up there. I think you can hear the fan running up there. So I have to rewire this relay box because everything is daisy chained back here. So right now what I've got is number 1 up here is my fuel pump, 2 and 3 are my fans. The issue with that is my main ground that I need for number 1 is at the end of my daisy chain here. So I'm going to D-pin 1 and 3 and I'm going to flip them around. So 1 will now be on the bottom, 3 will be on top. 1 is still going to be our fuel pump relay. It's going to go all the way down here. I'm going to clip this daisy chain wire down here, and we're going to switch that daisy chain out for a switched 12-volt wire. That way the fans then are switched on through that wire there rather than running to ground and not giving us any power. So that's the plan here. I'm going to go ahead and execute that. Now I'm going to have to run another power wire all the way over here, a switch 12-volt power wire all the way over here through my looms that I've got zip tied up nicely, but that's okay, not a big deal. We'll put new zip tie. I'm going to put coolant in this thing. It's the last thing I need to do. I sorted out my fans, I tested them, everything, I've tested everything. Everything works. The fuel pump, the ignition system, we're getting spark, we're getting fuel. The fans kick on when they're supposed to kick on. Like, everything is tested out. It should be down to just hitting the key and hearing this thing rumble. So I'm gonna get some coolant in it, and that's up next. The moment of truth is finally here. Everything's wired up, everything's ready to go. Let's say a small prayer maybe. I'm very nervous about this. I said it, we checked everything. Everything should be good to go. I'm gonna fire it, see if it fires. So here we go. All right, this is it. Moment of truth. Of pressure, oil pressure, we're good. Okay, now it's break-in time. So I need to bring this thing up to temp, and we're gonna run this at about 2,500 RPMs for about 30 minutes. So just the coating burning off the headers. Yeah, it's just the coating burning off the headers. that's just, it's coming up to temp. I'm gonna add some more, antifreeze. Not smoking it or anything real bad, is it? Out of the exhaust?
Very smoky.
Or not out of the exhaust though. Huh?
At the beginning it smoked a little bit. Does this record data?
Yes, it will record data. Right now, we've got it learning air-fuel ratio. So it's actively trying to hit this target of 13.94 air to fuel. What we're reading is bouncing up and down, but it's hitting its target. So right now it's actively learning how much fuel to provide the engine. Yep. Battery's charging. We got 70 pounds of oil pressure. It's running about 14 air to fuel. Really good. We're doing really good. Temperature's 198. It's getting a little warm.
Yeah, I feel the 198.
Are both the fans on?
The fans in the truck?
Yeah. Are they running? Right. 205. I don't want to go in much higher than that, so we're just gonna manually cool this thing down. We're dumping transmission fluid. We gotta cut it. All right, oh, there goes the yoke, and it dumped all the transmission fluid out. Okay, well, we're gonna have to let the engine cool down before we can do much more with that. I didn't realize the yoke had slid out. Hey, that's pretty good first go, I guess. I mean, I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm just excited it runs. There's no major issues. The smoke here is the transmission fluid dumping onto the exhaust. So now I got a giant mess to clean up, but I didn't get all the way through the break-in, but I'm excited. I'm so freaking excited. 2 years, this has been a long time coming. And to finally hear this thing run and live is really, really exciting. All right, a couple issues. One, I really wasn't thinking about the transmission yoke spinning when it's in neutral, but that's obviously a thing. I just wasn't really thinking about it. I thought I'd be fine running the yoke in there, and it chucked the yoke out the back. And so we had a big transmission leak out of the back tail housing. I should have thought about that. I was just so excited to hear this thing run. No big deal. I got the mess cleaned up. I found one other major issue though. I don't want to say major, but we were seeing a bunch of antifreeze on the ground and I freaked out. But it's actually just this housing. This is like an adjustable housing. And the second that the thermostat opens, that thing is puking oil out of it. Now, when I tighten this down, I tightened it to spec and I didn't over tighten it for sure. So I went to just put like a quarter turn, and I'm fairly certain this top bolt is stripped out. Like, I don't know how. It's the cheap Chinese intake, so probably just some crappy threads to begin with. But it's turning, and it doesn't feel like it's tightening, and it scares me. It makes me think it's definitely stripped out. So we need to address that water neck housing, because as soon as the thermostat opens on this thing, it's just puking antifreeze everywhere. So the thing's running a little hot right now. So that's about all the further we're going to be able to do for running this thing right now. But overall, I'd say that's a huge success. I mean, the thing fired right up almost instantly. And that is really down to that Holley Terminator system, man. The thing is awesome, especially when you're coupling the Sniper ignition system with any of the other EFI products. It just self-learns, it does its thing. Fired off immediately, no messing around, and I couldn't be more impressed with that. Wiring it up, setting it up is really simple. So we've got some things to work through now. I'm going to get this thing jacked up, and we're gonna measure for a drive shaft so we can throw a drive shaft in this thing. But we're probably not gonna do too much more running on this until I can get the brakes and the steering set up. Now that I know that it will fire, it runs, I feel really good about that. Didn't hear any unexpected noises coming from the engine. Everything seemed to be fine there. It runs super smooth. revs out really nice. Like, I'm just super pumped about this, guys. It's you have no idea. I mean, we're almost coming up on 2 years. To go 2 years, never having heard this truck run. I mean, we didn't even attempt to start it when we pulled it out of the barn. We just stripped it down. So getting to hear this thing finally fire to life almost 2 years later is just like, it's definitely emotional. I'm just really thrilled with the way things have gone, and it's been a long road to get here, and we still got a long ways to go, but we're gonna close that gap up really quick between where we're at now and being able to run and drive this thing. So I thank you guys so much for your support. This episode's kind of all over the place, and I know that, but we finally got to hear Elsworth run. But I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. There's big things to come, big things coming. And I just can't wait to share it with you guys. So all that said, guys, you know the deal. If you don't work on your project, like I work on my project every single week, then it will not finish itself. Get out in the garage, get building. I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.